Spiritual being in physical form, a dichotomy of light and dark, where energy equals mass. You are a spiritual being in physical form, a dichotomy of light and dark, where energy equals mass on a journey designed to fulfill our personal legend and purpose, to use humanity throughout, to amplify and transcend, slay the ego, raise the humanity. That's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the High Vibe Zone. Hey y'all, hey. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are coming from, joining us. LinkedIn, YouTube, interwebs, humans, hello. Welcome to the High Vibe Zone. I'm your host, Sharice Fonts, and today it's just gonna be me. We're gonna be hanging out today. I got some a topic that I want to talk about, a topic that I love talking about. My husband says if I'm talking to someone, it's either about culture and birth. Y'all haven't experienced the birth talk. Actually, I did. I did talk about the Finksters one time in the High Vibe Zone. So welcome. If this is your first time, you are in the right place. This place is filled with light and love and high vibes. Go ahead and drop in the comments your name. Where are you geographically in this world? What are you grateful for? I want to know what you're grateful for. We're going to get into that in a second. I want to know what you're grateful for today. Gratitude changes the attitude, and you will receive more of what you want when you celebrate and speak that out. So if you have joined me in the High Vibe Zone before, I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to do a quick mic check. Okay. Y'all can hear me. I think so. It's looking good. All right. In true High Vibe Zone fashion, I got our encouraging cards, and we're gonna see what they say today. We're gonna start it off with that. But while we warm this up, while we warm up this zone, just go ahead and drop in the comments. Hello, how are you? What are you grateful for? Actually, how are you? That's a conversation. Maybe we'll do that on the breakdown. Did y'all know there's another show? It's outside of the High Vibe Zone. It's called The Breakdown with me and Felicia. Felicia, we should do How Are You? Because that carries a lot of stuff Anyway, it's on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern. So the breakdown has been real fun. All right. Here we go. Hello, Louisiana. I know that there's a specific way you're supposed to say Louisiana. Sometimes I say it right, sometimes I don't, depending on who I'm around. But we got Louisiana in the house. Hello. I'm grateful for life and love. Amazing. Thank you so much for being with us here in the High Vibe Zone. And by us, I guess it's just me. It's also another thing. Anyway, let's get into it with our encouraging card of the day, because we're going to be talking about culture today, y'all. I want to talk about culture, and I usually give this kind of talk privately in like a workshop setting, but we're gonna switch it up. We're gonna bring it to the High Vibe Zone, because ultimately, you know, as this conversation of culture and as things are evolving and transcending, I think it's really important to kind of come back to center. So what's great about this is it's recorded, so you can watch it later. You can share this out with people within your company, and you can noodle on this for a little bit. So we're going to talk about culture. But today, our encouraging card, always find reasons to laugh. There it is. Always find reasons to laugh. You know, it's actually really interesting. While this might not specifically tie into what we're going to talk about today, but it does bring up something I brought up a couple days ago, or I think it was yesterday. I was talking to Maria, and I was getting an idea for a post or just something I wanted to talk about. And essentially what I said was, 5 ways to instantly raise your vibration. And one of them is to watch something that makes you laugh or smile. So always find a reason to laugh. I will say, my husband is really good at that. There has not been a day, maybe a day, but he keeps me laughing, whether it's he says something funny, does something funny. He is just a funny human and he just keeps me laughing. Another thing that I see, with my kids, they laugh a lot. And so, yesterday as they were getting ready for bed, they were they were messing with mama and I was pretending to be like the tickle monster. And so they were just messing with me and then running off hysterically laughing, which made me laugh. And so laughter is one of those things that raise that vibration. It releases the oxytocin and all of those good chemicals. So if you're looking for a reason to laugh, comedies help. Find a joke. Oh, okay. I'm gonna tell y'all my joke. This is gonna be kind of hard because I can't see you, so I'll need y'all to type pretty quickly. But this is the one joke that I got. Have y'all heard about the race between the lion and the cheetah? The cheetah won. The lion said, "You cheetah." The cheetah said, "You lion." I think I got it. Basically, the cheetah won, and the lion said, "You a cheetah," and the cheetah said, "You lying," because it's a lion. It's hard to tell jokes with nobody really. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's still out there. It's funny. But yes, find a reason. Always find reasons to laugh. No matter what you're. Thank you. We got James here. What's up, James? James showing some love in the high vibe zone. Yes. Oh my gosh. James laughed. Okay. All right. Michelle B laughed. All right. I got a couple laughs on that one. Thank you. Maybe I was on the spot. All right. We're going to be talking about culture, y'all. But before we get into it, I'd like to provide y'all with the definition in which we are going to be talking about culture. And this is also something that I share with my client partners and just people that engage me in culture conversations. It's really important to understand this definition of what we look at as workplace culture, because there's so many different definitions out there about culture, whether you're looking at it more in the anthropological space or if you're looking at it in the workplace. So this is the definition that I have in relationship to the workplace for culture. So how I define it is an evolving survival mechanism, that's the core part of this, an evolving survival mechanism that the people use to achieve a mutually satisfying goal within the workplace. This evolving survival mechanism consists of thoughts, experiences, beliefs, actions, and responses. So when you think about culture, whether it's in the workplace or outside of the workplace, it is an evolving survival mechanism. When you put it under the umbrella of business, it becomes one of those, it's still a survival mechanism that the people are using. And what's also interesting, I'll move my mic up a little bit. What also is interesting is that culture, there's the macro and the microculture. So I'll get into this later. I didn't really have this in my notes, but the macroculture will always influence the microculture. So what does that mean? So it means the things that are happening outside of your workplace, your microculture, will be influenced by the things that are happening outside. Hence, the pandemic. A lot of the stuff that was happening in the macroculture was affecting what was going on in the workplace in the microculture. It is very rare that the microculture affects the macroculture. It's very rare that it goes outside of the way. So very similar when I was working in startups, we would be in if you ever heard the term startup bubble, We're in our own little bubble. We're in our own little world. What happens here is here. What happens here is life in so many ways. So I wanted to just give that working definition of culture, but I have something that every time I talk about culture and tribe, I have something that I want to share with you that is just very near and dear to my heart about culture. And I'm going to scale us back a little bit and go anthropological. So I'm going to actually talk about a specific tribe in the context of culture. So I have a very nice video for you. And I think it's about 2 or 3 minutes. So as you watch this, as you digest this, you might have seen this before, but this is the best way that I can lean into and dive into what we're going to talk about with culture today. So without further ado, I'm going to share this video with y'all. I'll see y'all in a second. All right, y'all. That every time I watch the Haka in any form, I'm just like chills, 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 chills. In the past, when I've shared this video during a conversation, when I talk about culture and tribe, there's usually a lot of mixed emotions in the room. It's usually some people laugh, some people smile, some people are in tears, and it affects everyone a little bit differently. However, what you have just watched is a really beautiful representation of culture. And so to give some context to the video that we just watched, it is of the Maori tribe. They hail from New Zealand. The Maori are indigenous Polynesian people of the mainland of New Zealand. So they originated from East Polynesia and arrived in waves to New Zealand. And so they started that around 1320, 1350. And the specific haka that we just watched, oh James, yes, it gets you. This is the power of just okay, I won't even get into it. I'm gonna keep going. But what we just watched was um a specific haka that a chief wrote for his son who was going off to college and having a difficult time. And so this was done around the early 1900s. Um, and essentially what this, I'm going to read it. Essentially what this, oops, my screen's just messed up. Here we go. Essentially what this means is he was, the chief at this time is telling his son, what is right is always right. What is right is always right. Be true to yourself, my son. He's also saying, I've been worried about you. And essentially he's saying like, hey, what is the problem that you are carrying? Have you got that? Like, right? Like, let it go. Like, whatever it is, let it go. And he essentially ends this with saying, the answers are inside of you. And what you saw was this beautiful display of one side. So it's at a wedding. So the one side of the party of the wedding was kind of talking this out, and you see the groom with his bride. And what happened, you see the split after they were done. The groom responds, and that's like the response to the chief's questions and the son trying to figure things out. And so it's a very powerful haka. I believe this exact haka is done also in the All Blacks do it before. It's also and I think there's different types of hakas that mean different things, but this one has been one that I've been studying and just looking out for many of years, because not only does it invoke deep emotion, but just the beautiful story that this chief has to his son. So why do I bring this up into the context of culture? Well, this specific haka has been done for over 100 years. And you have to think about it. It's been passed down. The story, the meaning, all of those bits have been passed down to be in such a way that it can be felt by people that don't even understand the words. They don't even understand. And that is the depth. That is the depth of culture. That is the depth of culture. It is this beautiful ecosystem that is preserving some of the best parts and bringing them out in both ways, whether it's in the workplace or it's in a tribe or it's in, a different type of culture. There is so much richness inside of it, and there's so much that it carries. So how do we take that into the translation of business? The concept of culture, given the definition that we just talked about and kind of what I just explained around the culture of the haka, is it's the core. Your culture is the core of the business. And so there are a couple of things that I want to just touch on in relationship, or what kind of surrounds that core of your business. And it starts with the way that you hire. I mean, that's a really big thing. And I like to look at into no relationship to what we just watched, but I always like to look at every culture as their own island. So how and who you are bringing onto the island is really key. How you're welcoming and onboarding your people. It really comes down to leadership. It comes down to how people feel appreciated. Um, there's so many different components within that, but that culture that you've created, or that's being created, that evolving survival mechanism, is such a big play into how the business operates. I find it interesting that I don't, at least maybe this is, someone has to let me know, but it's not common for companies to have on their P&L, this is our line item for culture. This is how we're investing and enriching in the fact that this is an evolving thing and we must evolve as it evolves. They don't usually have that budget set out. But yet it is one of the most impactful things to the business, because essentially your people are the culture. So if the people are not well and they are not taken care of and they are not welcome to the island properly and they are not seen properly, if they are not put into purpose properly, the business isn't going to be able to function as well. However, there has been times where businesses have been able to thrive because they've reached like an enormous profitability cap. So while the culture is still in disarray, that doesn't mean that companies like that can't fall. I mean, I think back to Enron and how it was such a big company, but culturally they were corrupt. Culturally they were infected. There's just there just needs to be more conversation around cultural intelligence around the workplace, because what I'm seeing now is, as we are going into higher consciousness as humans, the workplace is staying very traditional and true to where it first came from. And if you've heard me talk with Darren, shout out, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. We talked about the Industrial Revolution and how the workplace and also how the schools have come out of this, birthing of the Industrial Revolutions. Well, businesses are very much in that still traditional mindset, while our humanity is transcending. So culture is going to be that bridge. And it doesn't mean that you can't have best of both worlds. In fact, if you do not pay attention to the culture, you will have no world. Your company will collapse. And as I think about, now we're moving into more of a remote hybrid type culture. And what does that mean? Well, if you want to know what that means, you want to go back to the definition. You want to look at the survival mechanism. What is that survival mechanism that your people are using? James, yes, IBM. There you go. I mean, that leadership component is actually really huge. Maybe we should talk about leadership a little bit, because there's some stuff in there. But going back to just looking at how that survival mechanism can look like, I'm not engaging. I'm not speaking up. I'm hiding my mistakes. Survival mechanism could be, I'm going to create a conversational click over here. We're going to go high school and I'm going to talk about this person, but not talk directly to this person. It looks like companies being afraid to possibly tell their people the truth of what's going on. It looks like low productivity. It looks like stalled innovation. Survival mechanism looks like burnout. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about how, in the context of a marathon and a sprint, how many companies are trying to hire marathon employees, but they don't realize that once you run I have never personally ran a marathon, just putting it out there. Maybe that's 2023. But I've studied marathon runners, and not only do they take many months, almost, correct me somebody, but like a very long time to train. But after they are done with that marathon, they are in recovery for a while as well. So if you think about how companies expect marathon performances from their people, that also comes with a downside. What companies should be focusing on is sprinting their people and giving them, time for rest, and then sprint, and then time for rest, all in a very synchronized way, because we are not built for burnout. That is not something our bodies do very well. Yes, toxic conversations. So yes. I mean, oh my gosh, there's a whole thing about that. But yeah, survival mechanism. I'm going to be negative. I'm going to show up with an attitude. I'm going to, um, you know, take forever to do these things, the survival component, because again, the culture is always going to be influenced by the outside and the inside, or the outside is going to influence the inside. And then you have to figure out how to navigate that. And the easiest way to do that is with humanity. And it might sound soft and kumbaya and woo woo, but I will tell you that unless you have a company full of robots, the human heart really thrives on being treated like a human. I don't know how else to say it. And if you want your culture to be preserved in the healthiest of ways and amplified and passed down, you're going to need to really look at how the business is interacting with the people and how the people are interacting with the business. And look at that example of the haka. It's been passed down over 100 years now. It still keeps its integrity. That doesn't mean that there hasn't been stuff that goes on in the Maori culture or in their tribe. It just means like this is one component of that. And so as you look at your culture, as you look at how you're bringing people onto the island, how you're welcoming them. I mean, that onboarding experience, I don't know if y'all realize, but the onboarding experience is the most, like, let's say y'all screw up the hiring, right? Like you butcher the hiring, but you get the right person in. If you do nothing else, hyper focus on your onboarding. That is the most important thing that you can do for your people, is giving them the best first day and the best last day and filling everything in between. Like there's nothing more important than that. I think I talked about this. I talk about this in the book, How to Keep Your Culture from Going to Poop Emoji, where it's like, imagine, you and I meet for the first time and we're excited and everything is great. And I'm talking to you about my 8 chickens and how they lay eggs and how I just learned how to make fresh bread. And you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. And we decide to set up like a tea date, and with bread and eggs and stuff that, all this really good stuff. And I give you my address, we set up a time, and you're so excited. You pick out the outfit that you're going to wear, and we confirm everything. Everything is great. You show up to my door, knock, you do the friendly knock. Do y'all know the friendly knock? When you knock on somebody's door? I mean, I don't know if this is old school or not, but this is the friendly knock. It's a shave and a haircut. So it's did y'all know that? That's the friendly knock. That's the knock that you do when you like are a friendly visitor. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, you knock on the door, you do the friendly knock, and no answer. So you knock again. You do the friendly knock again. Still no answer. So then you go ahead and ring the doorbell. And finally, you can hear the feet shuffling. I'm coming to the door. Open the door. You can clearly see I'm still in my pajamas. I haven't showered. And it's dark inside this house. And I just open the door and say, let yourself in. And I go back to lay on the couch. And then I point over to this table, and there's some stale bread and cold eggs. How would you feel? Would you feel welcomed? Would you want to stay? Would you want to get to know more? No, you'd be like, all right, I don't know who this person is, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, what happened, but I'm not getting good vibes at all. That is what most companies do for their first day and their onboarding. It's the equivalent. So, as you think about the enrichment, all of the components of your culture, and listen, y'all, if you've been tucking culture under your HR people, under your people ops, you're doing it wrong. Culture in itself needs to be its own holistic standing, because it really is the anchor within the company. It is the main anchor within the company. And if you don't have an anchor, if you don't have a foundation, a lot of the stuff just kind of seems very whimsical. But whimsical isn't always bad, but it is when you don't have an anchor. Like, I like to go up into the clouds and, into the bunny holes and all that stuff, but I have an anchor. I have a groundingness always. So, yes, James. One of my favorite moments, being heard is very important. It is. Best first day, best last day. That's it. And then you got to fill in all the good stuff in the middle. So, I have so many other thoughts around culture, but I really base it a lot on anthropology and humanity. And I use a lot of tribal and birth analogy to really help navigate cultures, because I think when I was back in the back in the day, y'all gonna have to guess how old I am or how young I am. I don't know. I don't really care what number you say. If you were like, Sharice, you are like 55, I would be honored. And if you say, Sharice, you were like 23, I would be like, okay, I'd still be honored. I'd be honored by the age range, but not the moment. Y'all didn't want to know me in my 20s. 20s were a mess. But I think back to when I first heard culture and how it was used as this, like, we got ping pong table, we got kombucha on tap, we got cold brew, we have this, we have happy hours, which in itself, happy hours are actually not a really they're not as complementary to the culture as some might think. They're actually very exclusive, traditional ways. So you think about happy hours, they usually involve alcohol. Well, depending on if you're trying to be an inclusive workplace culture, alcohol is one of the most exclusive things that you could provide. Maybe you have like 10 or 15 people that drink, great. But, when you think about trying to build a culture of inclusion, Islam is one of the top growing religions in the world, and they don't drink. I think it's like between Christianity and Islam are the top. I know last I checked, Islam was the fastest number one growing religion. Muslims don't drink. So, I just think it's a really interesting thing how back then inclusivity was happy hours and things like that. So again, when the notion of culture was created, I guess in the workplace, or just when I was introduced to it, it was about the things that we had, not the things that we are, not the things that we are becoming, not the things that we do in collection of. And so now I think because feel like we skipped culture, went straight to like diversity and inclusion, which that's a whole nother conversation. We haven't actually got the foundation of culture and what it actually is. The culture is the most important thing next to the business, and the culture are the people. So I guess what I want to leave y'all with is just this expansion of understanding around culture, and to explore a little bit deeper, as y'all go into 2022, going into hybrid workplace cultures, going into different workflows, and just leveling up as a company. I just want to encourage you to really spend some time with the culture. I offer free culture conversations, and I can help navigate very quickly a culture that might be transitioning, whether they're in growth mode, survival mode, whatever that is. And so, have these outside conversations, because here's another component to the culture. It's really hard to diagnose what it is that is going on with your culture if you are experiencing any of these symptoms of a toxic workplace culture or of a stalled out culture. If you're experiencing any of those symptoms, it's very hard to diagnose while you're inside the culture, because everything's great. And if it isn't, you don't want to have to stir up anything. Bringing in an outside objective, outside eyes really help. Anytime I've done anything of deep significance, I've always brought in somebody from the outside. Show me what I'm not seeing. And the goal here is not to continue along the lines of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. The goal here is to see where you can up level not only the culture, and by nature, it will up level your business. If you're looking to be more innovative, to capture market, to increase revenue, to focus more on inclusion, all starts with the culture. And that's one big mistake companies do, especially over this past year. What they've done is they're like, we're going to focus on diversity, inclusion, equity, quality, belonging, and your culture is a mess. Diversity won't have anything to anchor itself to. Inclusion won't have anything to anchor itself to. Equity, all of that stuff. If your culture is, it's like when you buy a house that looks great, but the foundation is jacked up. And you're wondering why your water pressure is low, or why these things are happening, or why, and your culture will tell you what's going on. You just have to be objective enough to listen. If you're in a gathering or a meeting and people aren't speaking up, there's something off with the safety, the psychological safety, which brings me to kind of something I want to wrap up with. I don't know if y'all, Kelsey was in the high vibe zone one time, and she is doing some phenomenal work around culture. So I want to just give Kelsey a little bit of a shout out. Kelsey Lee, and she runs this. I'm gonna just pull this up really quick so I can get it. I want to get it verbatim. Kelsey, I want to do you justice by honoring what you've created. So she's created the art of leading people-centered teams. And so Kelsey has this, I think it's 12, let me see, I'm gonna just double check. I think it's a 12-week program for companies and individuals that are looking to really create a people-centered experience. Again, thinking about that first day and thinking about that last day. I will never forget my first day for a lot of companies, and I have not forgotten my last day for a lot of companies either. So it's a 12-week comprehensive program and community, and it will help you learn how to improve engagement, build psychological safety, increase productivity within your team. And why is this I think this is a really key time, because 2022 is really needed. We got to get these cultures right. We got to get these cultures healthy. We got to get the people healthier. I'll be posting this a little bit later, but one of the thoughts around what we're seeing a lot in the workplace is that word burnout. There can be no breakthrough within the culture if your people are burnt out. It just can't happen. And so I'm telling you, the culture will contain everything that you need. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say on this note. Now is a great time to start planning, though. Now is a great time to start planning. And if you don't have the resources, bring in somebody from the outside. Bring in a culture expert. I would say for those mid to large size companies, shout out to Stan Slap. Slap Company has got you. You're a smaller company, talk to Culture Circle. We will have a culture conversation with you. You don't even need to engage with us. We will share a lot of our knowledge with you. We won't do the work for you. That's an engagement, but we will share our knowledge with you. I think about when my kids get into the workplace, and one has just how important how he's made to feel when he shows up every single day, how he's made to feel when he makes a mistake, how is he made to feel when he feels like he's doing a great job, but might just be off a little bit. How he's made to feel when he needs to be corrected on something. How he's made to feel when he doesn't know anything. That is all within the culture DNA. And so some of the companies are like, we're making money, we're profitable, or things are going well, or we just don't have time for that. The culture will catch up with you eventually, and it will come out and it will seep in certain ways. It will seep out in certain ways. Very similar to the article where I talked about how anti-racist, like companies that are like, we're anti-racist, but y'all still got oppression in the workplace. So you have no business focusing on anti-racism. You should be focusing on dealing with the oppression that you have. So I just think that I have a knowingness that there is just a right time and a time to start working on culture. Why not now? About to enter into a fresh 22. Work on the culture. Okay. I think that's all I got to say about that. We have what we have versus who we are. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different symbolisms in terms of like the material or the superficial versus the more significant. Yes. Maybe I should have talked about that. How some companies go from a culture of survival, culture of success, but ultimately, looking for that culture of significance and like what that encaptures to create a culture of transcendence, which is just something that takes you beyond what you could even imagine on a business plan. It's possible. It's possible. Okay. I think that's all I got for y'all today in the high vibe zone, talking about culture. It's enough. It's enough. I think I feel like I've shared enough. Essentially, the culture is very strong. Whether it's a positive or a negative experience, it's still such a strong component to your business. It is the core. When you think about core, when you work out and how you have a core, your core is central to your body. How strong is your core? How strong is your culture? Because that is going to ultimately help with the balance, help with perception, help with different types of things. So let me know what you thought about this. Drop some questions. I mean, if y'all have questions about culture, you can drop them in here too, and I'll go back and answer them. But essentially, that's kind of the culture 101 where it starts. Really looking at it from a tribal component, a tribal perspective, anthropology side of culture. Think of each culture as an island, which is why mergers and acquisitions are so key to a culture, actually, because you're fusing 2 islands, 3 islands, 4 islands, 5 islands together, and then being like, everybody. Anyway, there's more on that later, but I wanted to talk about that. Also, I'm going to drop the link to Art of Leading People-Centered Teams, hosted by Kelsey Lee. It starts on the... let me see. When does it start? Let's just see. It starts in September, I believe. It will have, yes, it starts September 13th through December 6th. 6th. There we go. So I'll drop that link in there. If you have any culture questions, just feel free to drop them. I'll answer them, or just, you know where to find me on LinkedIn. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. James, thank you for your interaction in the High Vibe Zone. So good to virtually see you. I'm going to send you out with a blessing of light, love, and gratitude. Thank you so much for being here with me in the High Vibe Zone. I've been your host, Therese Fons. And this has been the High Vibe Zone. We're about to end it and kick it with our super sick intro, outro. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye, everyone. You are a spiritual being in physical form. a dichotomy of light and dark, where energy equals mass on a journey designed to fulfill our personal legend and purpose, to use humanity throughout to amplify and transcend, slay the ego, raise the humanity. That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the High Vibe Zone.